Are you planning on racing Ironman 70.3 Washington Tri-Cities this year? I'm not sure what to expect. Well, if so, this is a video for you because in it, two experienced coaches and a locally based coach are going to go through the swim, the bike, the run, and all the bits in between, equipment advice, and some hints and tips to make sure you're prepared to have a belter of a race day experience. But who are we? My name is Coach Steve or Steven Moody. I am I'm based an Ironman U certified coach who's based in Dublin, but more recently I'm a YouTuber who goes and does 70.3 and full distance Ironman reviews to allow athletes like yourself find out all the information you need, like in terms of will it be a wetsuit swim, is it a road bike, TT bike, will I get the aid station, the run on the run course, etc., etc. But how do I do this? I do this because I have a network of really cool and very knowledgeable coaches, friends, race organizers, etc., who are based near the race and actually know the information from being on the ground. And in this, I am delighted to have Coach Wendy Mader, a good friend of the channel, who is going to talk us through, was it the 70.3 Washington Tri-Cities course. I'll let her do a little bit of an intro about what her coaching background is and what her athletic background is, and then we'll dive straight in. Wendy, how are you?
I'm great, Steve. Thanks for having me back. So, I have been an athlete for 33 years. I'm a multi-sport athlete. I started in 1992. I'm in my 33rd season of not missing a race. I actually did my first Ironman in Kona in 1997, and the picture you see is from 2008 when I was the overall amateur female winner. And since then, over the years, I've completed 21 total Ironman. So I've experienced dozens and dozens of 70.3s before they were called 70.3s. So I have a wealth of information from my own personal experience as well as coaching experience.
Fabulous. I am trying to show that how big the smile is there on in the picture. It's absolutely huge, and rightly so. Okay, so let's dive straight into the course for Washington. It looks like it's a point-to-point swim. What can people expect on the day, Wendy?
It is a point-to-point swim. The water temperature is in the upper 60s. I would be prepared for a wetsuit legal swim. When it's that temperature, I prefer sleeveless. I get the question all the time whether I use sleeveless or long sleeve, and that type of almost 70 degrees, definitely sleeveless. And you will be shuttled to the start. It's a downstream big current. This is a relatively new race. I think this is only the second, maybe it's the third year. And it was super fast. I think even faster. I know Ironman Chattanooga 70.3 is a very fast swim course. This seemed to be even faster. You don't want to depend on the current, but it's safe to say you're going to have a nice current and you will have 1 hour and 10 minutes to complete the swim.
Cool. And in terms of there's going to be no wonderful wildlife or anything to be afraid of in the water, seeing as the river, we're not expecting any sharks,
No,
etc.
it's narrow, it's clean. Again, point to point swims, I think makes for very easy sighting because you just go straight. There's no turns. Usually Ironman has the buoy set up every 100 meters. So some people like to count. That helps them count down the number of buoys so they know that they're almost done. And again, just be prepared to take the shuttle. I think the shuttle will start taking athletes to the start line at 4:30 in the morning.
Fantastic. And we'll talk a little bit about transition, etc. And as you said, Coach Wendy, it's 1 hour and 10 minutes for get it done. Shouldn't be a problem with this downstream swim, but again, as I said, just make sure you've done a bit of practice of open water swimming in your wetsuit because it is quite a different feel. Um, People will ask how you actually get into the water. We talk about this a fair bit. It is a rolling start, isn't it, Coach?
It is a rolling start. I'm not sure if they're going to have a dock. I didn't see that in the registration that I read, but some places have a dock where they start you two at a time, jumping in the water. Usually rolling starts in the United States is usually you kind of line up single file or double, and they'll start you either single file. Since it is point to point, they get you in the water fairly quickly, one or two athletes at a time.
Yeah. And this is an image of, again, this isn't Washington itself. It's just a really good picture that illustrates how the rolling start works. When you come up on race morning, when you're shuttled up, you will be put into pens or corrals with your expected swim time. And I'll ask you about this in a second, Coach Wendy. Where you'll have under 30 minutes, 30 to 35 minutes, 40, 35 to 40, and you're meant to put yourself in what your expected swim time is, and how it just allows Ironman to ease all the swimmers in a very kind of controlled and orderly fashion. It moves away from the classic old examples of where those mass swim starts, and it used to cause a little bit of panic. So there will be volunteers who hold you back. As Coach Wendy said, it may there be one or two people, but the beep will go off and you'll get into the water, and then you'll head off. With it being a downstream swim, how would you advise people on seeding themselves? So if I'm at 35 minutes, I would cover a 1.9K swim in 35 minutes. If it's a downstream swim, what would your advice to me be to what corral should I go into?
I would start in the under 30-minute corral, assuming the current's going to be the same as previous years. That's not always the case, but generally speaking, you should be swimming about 5 minutes faster than your regular 1.2 mile swim, maybe even faster than 5 minutes, but I think 5 minutes is a good average um, outcome of being faster in a downriver swim.
I definitely have to sign up for this race. This would be the idea of having a 5 minute PB on my swim time sounds absolutely lovely. Any other advice for people on the swim course before we talk a little bit about transition?
No, I think the main thing is just kind of be honest about your time. If again, some people who don't have the experience will still settle into their current 1.2 mile swim time, seeding themselves, which is fine, and they'll be even more happy when they get out a little bit faster. So just everyone's usually pretty honest. No one wants to get in a cluster of anything. So no one who swims 45 minutes is going to line up behind the 30-minute corral, and no one in the 30-minute corral who swims 30 minutes is going to line up in the 45-minute corral. So it's pretty open and pretty honest.
Yeah, perfect. Great advice there. Okay, so we've done our swim and we've got our PB swim, so we're happy with our start of the day. Transition advice. Looks like a single transition. Am I correct on that?
Single transition set up the night before.
Fantastic. And it's a what we would call a traditional transition as opposed to a clean transition. The difference here, you'll hear people talking about this for newbies. When they talk about a traditional transition, it's like your local domestic race, your sprint or your Olympic, where you actually lay out all the lay out your bike, your bike shoes, your helmet, etc. on the bike. Whereas when people talk about a clean transition, like they're typically in full iron distance races in the States, that means that they use a bag system, kind of this blue and red bag system. Good news is it's as simple as your local race, so you don't need to worry about that. Um, in terms of your top tips for someone who's doing their first 70.3, Coach Wendy, what would you advise someone how to get themselves ready for transitioning from swim to bike?
Well, definitely like set up all your gear the night before or before you head to the race to make sure you don't forget everything. Take us a small amount of space as you can. Sometimes they will, it just depends on the nature of the whole transition area. They will keep people pretty tight, close. So make sure you just have the essentials in transition, your helmet, glasses, bike shoes, bib number, racing belt, maybe some sunscreen, maybe some snacks, whatever you're going to eat and drink. And said I like to rack my bike on the seat, so it's easier for me to pull out of the rack. And when you get to transition, just make sure you review your ins and your outs so you know where you're going to enter the swim, you know where you're going to exit the bike, you know where you're going to enter from the bike, and you know where you're going to exit to the run.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, walking transition the day before when you do have to check in your bike and pick up a timing chip the day before. So walking from really the swim exit into where your bike is going to be racked is key, making sure you find a nice landmark that you'll know where to run to. Um, Finding out where the mount line is, as in where you can have to cross the bike across that line entirely with your bike before you can actually hop on the bike. That's another key landmark. And then also reverse the process as if you're coming back. So you'll then look for the dismount line, typically the same place where you have to get off the bike entirely before you run in, and walk that a couple of times, make yourself comfortable, take some pictures of places so you actually don't, when you're there, sort of going, um, well, it was, where was the mountain line again? If I took a left there, just take, people have smartphones, use that to your advantage. Um, what is your top tip for a newbie and going to transition from swim to bike?
When you're exiting the water, if you're wearing a wetsuit, start to peel off your wetsuit, at least to your hips. So when you do get to your bike, you're able to kind of slide it off a little bit easier from your hips all the way down your leg to your feet. And then I like to stomp on my wetsuit to pull one leg out and then stomp on the other leg to pull the other leg out. There have been times where I've been flustered and I've had to sit down and pull off my wetsuit, but it makes it a lot easier when you start to take it off in the beginning as you're running up to your bike. And really just, as I'm running, I'm thinking methodically what happens when I get to my bike. Once the wetsuit's off, I actually have my glasses in my helmet on my aero bar. So I'll put my glasses, helmet on. I fasten my helmet right away. You don't want to be seen in transition without without your helmet fastened. And then I'll put on socks and shoes. Usually for a 70.3, I'll have socks available to put on when I get on my bike.
Fantastic. As usual, brilliant tips. And there's, if you're looking for other kind of top little short tips on transitioning and making a quick and speedy getaway, and with all the right pieces of equipment, there's some shorts there in the comments below about transitioning from swim to bike. And again, Coach Wendy has described it really well about how to get out the wetsuit. There's an actual video demo of doing that. That's stomping, getting it down to your hips. That's stomping out and kind of kicking your leg out. So if you want to see that in practice. Brilliant. So we're in. We've
And I
got
think I think the best advice is make sure you practice getting in and out of a wetsuit before race day.
absolutely. And again, that's something that myself and my squad do, as in like whenever we do open water swim practice. And again, by the way, do open water swim practice. Don't turn up and have only ever swam in a pool. Make sure you get to swim in a wetsuit because it's a completely different feel. What we do is at the end of it, they have a small competition. Whenever we get out, the last person out of their wetsuit is there buying the copies. So again, it's a brilliant way of actually getting people sort of to get out of their wetsuit quite quickly. Right. We are now on to, oh, before we head on, I hope you're liking the video and it's finding useful. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're looking for this or other race content, and give it a thumbs up. And that's the link there. And also definitely check out Coach Wendy's Instagram. She's got some really cool content up. She's really active on it, and it's such really useful bite-sized piece of information, and fun as well. So make sure you check out her via the Instagram handle there, and also drop into her DMs if you're looking for a bloody good coach to get you a PB at 70.3 levels and above. But okay, enough about that in terms of selling ourselves. We are now onto the bike course, which looks like a one loop course. What can people expect on the day, Coach Wendy?
It's a one loop course. It's got 1,800 plus feet of elevation gain over 56 miles. So it's defined as a rolling hill course. There's nothing major, just some short punchy hills, small descents. And again, 1,800 feet of elevation gain over 56 miles to me is a flatter type of course. On the bike, anytime I think on any race, you should expect wind. You should expect heat. You should expect to train in all types of weather and all types of hills. If you're someone who doesn't really like hills on a course, train on hills that are going to be steeper than the course itself. That profile is a little bit deceiving. It looks like there's two big climbs. But again, remember the elevation gain is spread over 56 miles or 90 kilometers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In terms of road surface, what can they expect? Is it
Very
generally
nice
good?
roads, very nice road surface. You're in wine country, really nice terrain, really nice scenery, country. It's really beautiful. Greenery, it's very green.
Fantastic. Sounds like my hometown. Now in terms of the we'll ask the classic question. If you had the option of a road bike or TT bike, what would your recommendation be on this, of course, coach?
TT bike for sure. I mean, again, there's a few hills, but for the most part, it's fairly flat and fast. So I always recommend a TT bike on a course where you're pretty much going to be aero because there's no long climbs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this, you can see here, there's some nice long stretches here that you can definitely get down on the aero bars and maximize that average speed. There are some kind of tight enough turns here, but they're what you call it. We've got one, two, three, four, probably five, six. Again, not a reason for me to be looking for an extra turning arc of using a road bike. So TT bike, I'm with you on that. And if you had a disc wheel, you said that you expect some wind. If you aero,
I mean,
if
I
you
think
have
you should always expect wind, but because this isn't on the coast, like Texas 70.3 is on the coast where there's going to be more wind when you're near water, there's going to be wind, but nothing that should limit you from riding a disc wheel.
fantastic. So if you've got all the toys, bring all the toys.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And again, anything can happen race day. So, for races that are classically hot and windy, some years they're cool and no wind at all. So again, always expect all race conditions weather-wise, but for the most part, it should be, just your typical mild wind weather type of pattern,
Cool,
not
excellent,
too extreme in either direction.
lovely. Any other last minute tips on the bike course?
Um, no, I think again, just make sure you can go the distance, make sure you do some hilly or training in that build phase of your training plan, which is about 8 weeks out. Make sure you're training on the bike you plan to race on within that 8 week out from race day period of time.
Fantastic, excellent. And again, in terms of the cutoff time, in terms of what your swim, your T1 and your bike time, by the way, and your timing only starts when you cross the timing mat when you enter the water. So again, that's another consideration when you're entering the water and seeding yourself. Make sure there's a mat there, that only starts. So that's where your time. You've got 5.5 hours. Um, you mentioned was the training on the bike that you training on the equipment you're going to use, and again, also another thing as well that you should also train on your nutrition again, which is key for 70.3 and a half distance. And we'll talk a little bit about this. This is something that I always highlight as well. This is the typical layout of a 70.3 and an Ironman kind of aid station. And I'm going to start off with my little statement here. It says here bottle toss, and here's last chance trash. For me, I have to highlight that this is the only point on the course where you can chuck rubbish or trash, as you Americans call it. And if you don't, two things will happen. One, you'll get spotted by a marshal and you get rightly disqualified because we are guests in Washington. We do not litter. And the second thing, you will be known as a dick in terms of the triathlon community. Please respect the area we're racing in. Once you get to this aid station and you can chuck your bottle, your gel wrapper. This is the typical flow. You'll have a volunteer who will be handing out water bottles, which will fit into your standard bottle cage. There'll be an option with mortal hydration, which tends to be berry, I believe, on the bike, and then food, which is typically bananas or energy bars, and then there'll be Morton gels. Then there's a second chance to do mortal hydration and water. Couple of things here. This is a high risk yet high reward part of your race day. You will need to pick up fuel on the bike, and you will need to pick up bottles, especially if it's one of the hot days that Coach Wendy referred to. But in it, there's lots of moving parts. There's, as I said, there's people who can throw litter. There are bikes moving in to pick up bottles. There's volunteers. Things can get dropped. So you need to have your wits about you. You need to openly communicate, tell people you're going in. Was it talk to the volunteers, make eye contact, say thanks, etc. But make sure you know how an aid station works, know where they are, know when you're going to build them into your nutrition strategy, and also practice certain things like making sure you're able to take a bottle and put it into your bottle cage as you go along. Anything you'd like to throw in aid station wise there, Coach Wendy?
No, I think if you're going to plan on receiving aid from an aid station, you want to make sure you use it in training. You don't have to use it your whole training cycle, but you want to use it a few times just to make sure you like it. It settles well in your GI tract. And if you do bring your own powder, some people will have their water bottles, grab water bottles at aid stations, and they'll stop and pour their own mix in their bottles. Just make sure when you're going to stop. I like to tell people to kind of stop at the end and you're aware of the people around you and you're not just pulling over so quickly that you're going to hit another cyclist. But there's definitely common for athletes to just bring their own mix, pour it in a water bottle, and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, yeah, and people do stop at aid stations. Ideally, 90% of the athletes will just roll through. And again, the key is making sure you're comfortable with your speed, you're comfortable, like, was it balancing the bike? But people do stop. And there are portaloos at these aid stations in case you need to go. So do be aware when they're on the course. And as Coach Wendy said, make sure you practice. If you're going to use mortal hydration, if you're going to take a Morton gel, don't wait till race day to try it for the first time. It might not agree with you, might not like the taste. And there, as you said, I can't emphasize how important aid stations are, and there's actually videos in the comments below about how to use it. There's demos, some kind of other hints and tips. Myself and Coach Wendy could go on about this for ages, but again, it's something you should practice. It's something you should be aware because it will be the making or breaking of your day on in Washington. Okay, doke. So we are now back. We've done our bike ride. We've had a super lit bike ride, and we're back to single transition. Um, I'm presuming there's no bike catchers again. Was it 10 not to be at 70.3? Do you know any different on
There
this
tends
one?
not to be at 70.3. And again, it always depends on how many volunteers they have, but generally at a 70.3, there'll be people slowing you down to dismount at the dismount line, which is the same as the mount line. We forgot to talk about that. And then it's up to you to run, walk, however you want to your same transition area that you took your bike from. So you're going to rack it in the same area. It's going to look really different. So again, making sure you know your ins and outs, making sure you have a marker, whether it's someone else's bike or someone else may have a balloon set up, or you may be parked by a certain tree or a certain building. And there's numbers on the racks as well. Just make sure you kind of have an idea where you're going to go when you come back in because it's going to look different.
Yeah, and you've got the race brain going on. There's a lot of adrenaline. People are shouting. You're just thinking, "Wow, I have a PB bike split in the bag," and and you can end up doing that running past your bike and then having to go back against the flow of people. It's much simpler if you take it nice, smooth, and controlled. Um, Again, for me, as I said, T2 is an easier transition than T1. So we have the phrase NGHIT2. Nothing good happens in T2. Once you rack your bike, then take off your helmet, and then put on your runners, and then everything else is movement. As in, if you need to put on a new race belt, if you need to put on a hat, you need to put on shades, or take a gel, you can do that while actually while moving. And the more you move, the closer you get to the finish line and the nice cold beer and the celebration moment with your family and friends. That's my top tip in terms of just keep moving, but be nice and smooth and controlled. What's your top T2 tip, Wendy?
And again, just like as I'm running in from the swim to the bike and I'm going through the motions, I'm doing that when I get off the bike. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take my helmet off, put it in my aero bars. Sometimes I will switch glasses, sometimes I don't. If I haven't put socks on, I'm going to put my socks on. I'm going to put my shoes on. I'm going to grab my race belt. I'm going to grab my visor and anything else, a gel or a water bottle, whatever else. And I'm putting my visor and my belt on and everything as I'm running out of transition. My T2s are actually quite fast, but I've raced a lot to get them to be quite fast. But there's definitely no need to diddle daddle. Just get out and get on the run. And there usually is an aid station right before you get out on the run course. So if you do need water or the hydration or any gels or anything or sunscreen, they will have that for you before you actually exit T2.
Cool. Do you use Loctite laces? Or
I
what type?
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. And Loctite laces, just for if you're new, they're essentially elastic laces that mean you don't have to tie your laces. They just turn your runners into a slip-on, and they hold your runner in place. And it saves you. For me, it saves you 30 seconds to a minute in terms of getting in and out. And question two again, coach. Socks or no socks for the run for 70.3?
For 70.3 socks for sure for the run. Again, sometimes depending on where I'm at mentally, sometimes I will put my socks on the bike, sometimes I won't, but I'll definitely have a pair to put on before the run in a 70.3 and 140.6.
Cool. I agree with you. Nothing that like blisters to ruin a good PB day.
Mhm.
Okay. So again, there's some great tips there. If you want some other like short 30-second hints and tips about how to find your bike, as in what how to get your runners on quick, there's some short videos in the comments below. And we're on to the run course. One loop out and back. What can our athletes heading chasing them at PB expect on the run course, coach?
Well, it's a very flat run course. There's only 300, what is it, 200, 357 feet of elevation gain over 13.1 miles. So
Mm.
again, those little hills, they're not that big. Very spectator friendly. Just like the swim is spectator friendly, you can have your family walking along the side of the swim course. You can have family all over the run course to cheer you on. So very spectator friendly by the river. So that kind of keeps it, I think, a little bit cooler when you have water near you. With the wind and maybe a little touch more humidity because it's near water. But it's again, it's a flat, fast course.
Yeah. Road surface, is it mainly concrete, tarmac Adam, or any mixed surface? I
Concrete.
think concrete.
Yeah,
Cool.
concrete path.
And aid stations roughly every 1 mile and all the rest, which again will be very similar to our bike aid station. The main, again, with the litter rules, again, please do not litter. The only main difference is they'll have a bit more sort of actual solid fuel that you can have the pretzels. They'll also have Coca-Cola, which is for me liquid sugar, and I'll take that when my legs are beginning to fall off. What's your hints and tips for aid? Was it running to pacing the half marathon and actually fueling for the half marathon?
So I actually did a video, it's on my Instagram about pacing the run in a 70.3 and 140.6. So again, no matter how you feel, you're going to be a little quicker in the beginning because you're just starting out, or you're not going to be. You're going to be a little slower in the beginning because you just got off the bike. So expect to feel either way, good or bad. I like to kind of ease into the first 5K, even the races that I'm actually racing and competing and feeling like this competitive edge. I will ease into the first 5K and then I'll try to get to the pace that I know I should be at based on my training. And I'll try to hold that for the next 5K. And then all of a sudden I'm halfway done, So then I try to pick it up a notch a little bit the second half. It's not typical to negative split a half marathon in a half Ironman. But in order to maintain the pace that I want to maintain, my rate of perceived effort is going to increase. And I know that. So I will make sure my effort goes up the second half. I never pass up an aid station, even if it's just grabbing water to throw over my face and keep me cool. That's really important to keep your core temperature cool. Sometimes I pour it down my tri-suit. I wear a visor, so it's not in my hat, but I'll definitely splash my face and splash my head. I like to rely on the hydration drink as well as Coke and pretzels. So I don't do gels or bars or fruit. I really do well with the Coke, the pretzels, the water, and the hydration mix.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree with you. And again, you do want to hold yourself back on the first 5K in terms of because it's just that's just you're really on your legs. And what I like about this course actually, most of 70.3s in the States, it can be like a three loop 7K affair, whereas once you've passed up this point, the only time you're going to see it is on the way back. And there's also you can see who you're chasing, you see who's gaining on you and all the rest, and you can have a bit of fun with your competitors. So this looks like a fun course. Any last minute tips for the run?
No, I mean, I like to prepare my athletes with a pacing and a nutrition plan outline based on their training. So you should do that. So you know exactly what and when you're going to eat on the bike course and what you're going to eat on the run course, and have a backup plan in case it's extra hot and you can't digest the things you've been practicing. You may have to rely on something else. So always have a plan A, plan B, plan C during your race of
Yeah.
your pacing plan and your nutrition plan.
And that's what a great coach like Coach Wendy will bring to the party. As in, like you don't want to be kind of thinking, second guessing, should I eat now, should I have ate then, or what? Am I going too fast? Am I going too hard? Like someone like a Coach Wendy in your corner knows all that detail. She will see it in your date and she will sort of tell you exactly what to do. It almost comes a paint by numbers exercise, a fun point and a fun race towards a PB. But anyhow, again, you can check out her details in the comments below and all the rest and do hit her up if you're looking for a top coach. In terms of your swim, your T1, your bike, your T2, and your run, you've got 8.5 hours to get it done. I think this is a PB course from the look of what we've described, the point-to-point swim, the flat run, and that run course, even the bike course, even though it's hilly on the description, you're right. I don't think it'll take too much time. So hopefully you will get a PB and you'll end up at this finish line. Maybe not as quick as our winner here, but you'll end up in double quick time and it will be a good day. So the a little bit about the key event timetable. Registration opens on the Friday, and this is based on last year's athlete guide. So do check the athlete guide in case anything changed, and also do attend the athlete briefing. That's one of the top tips I would give you because things can change last minute. As in we saw that with 70.3 Texas recently, they had the swim cancelled. You gotta change, you gotta keep appraised of it. This video will absolutely help you. Someone like Coach Wendy in your corner will help you even better, even more. But again, do keep an eye on what's going on. The athlete briefing, as I said, attend them. There's ones on Friday, there's ones on Saturday, and those are the typical slots they'll be. Saturday, as discussed, the bike, you drop off the bike the day before, and then you pick up your timing chip, as in because that means when you don't get it when you register, you don't get a timing chip when you register because Ironman want to 100% know that you're turning up to race on the day, and they know that when you're dropping a bike, it might be a case you're just picking up a bag. Race morning transition opens at 4, and then you have a rolling start on at 6:30. What's your top tips for race day morning for the newbie, Coach Wendy?
Get there early. You're probably not going to be sleeping. And especially if you're new, I would probably roll in around 4:30, 5 o'clock. Again, you want to make sure you get the transition set up and you get on the shuttle with plenty of time, as well as take a visit to the Porta John a couple times. So you're not doing yourself any good by hanging out in your hotel room away from the course. So it gives you getting there early. You not only get to do the things I already mentioned, but you get to meet other athletes. Maybe someone raced last year and they can give you some tips about their previous experience. Um, and it just kind of takes off. I'm less nervous. Once I'm there, I'm just less nervous. Like I just want to get there.
Absolutely, and there's an energy about the whole transition and the race day morning. Everyone, yes, in turn, like you, even if you see people you're looking to beat on the day, but there's everyone wants everyone to do well, and there's you can chat to people, etc., and you can have that, you can feed off that energy. Don't let it drain you nervously. You have to just feed off that energy. So it's part of your big day out. It's something that it's your reward for all the hard work. So yeah, get there early. I agree with you and enjoy it. So before I thank Coach Wendy, which I very much need to, just as I said, she is an excellent coach. I've worked with her a number of times, she knows her stuff about these local courses, and she about this race distance, about full distance, Olympic, and all. She's a superb coach to have in your corner. So if you want to even just ask her some last minute questions on this race, hit her an email. She's very good with her time. And if you really want to PB your season, you definitely need to have a conversation with this lady. So on that, I am going to stop sharing and listen. Wendy, thank you ever so much for your time. Again, it's been brilliant. Any last words for our viewers?
One last thing, when I saw that finish line, everyone should finish with their arms up and a smile. And make sure you do it right when you see that red carpet, put your arms up and start smiling because you never know when they're going to take those photo finishes of you, and you want to make sure you get some good photo finishes. And like we already mentioned, practice your hydration during training. Definitely in that 8-week build phase, practice on the bike that you're going to race on so you get comfortable. be able to swim, bike, and run the distance. You don't have to do it all the same day, but make sure you do your transition workouts. You know what it's like for your legs to run off the bike. You know how the fueling is gonna that you've took on the bike is gonna settle in your GI system as you run. And create that race plan and fuel plan outline before the race so you know exactly what you're going to do and it takes the guesswork out of it.
Brilliant, brilliant coaching advice as usual. So listen, on behalf of all the viewers and on behalf of myself, again, thank you so much for your time, Wendy. That's been again another just info packed video. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll leave it there.